Hi, this video is about how to write a good discussion post. Let's go through the steps. The first and most important step for writing a good discussion post is to look carefully at the prompt or question. As an example, let's look at the first part of the prompt for this week. It asks, is your parenting style closer to the French or the Norwegian style? This prompt asks you to respond to the video about the Norwegian versus French parenting styles. Let's open up a Google Doc. To make sure I don't lose my document, I'll put the title in now. I like to copy the question from the prompt into my Google Doc so I can look at it while I'm typing. In my experience, the best way to get ready to write is by looking at the text or watching the video and making a messy list of the points at the same time. Then I can turn the messy list into my answer or discussion post. I'll show you how I do it. Of course, I'm going to need the video to answer this question. So I'll be watching the video before or while I write my post. I'm going to take down some notes on the video to help me answer the question. I'll just take the notes in Google Docs while I watch.
I'm Kenyon, and I'm also in a relationship with a Norwegian channel. I see you enjoyed my Norwegian parenting styles video, so I thought I would bounce back and come to you with a French parenting versus Norwegian parenting video. French parents tend to say no a lot more than Norwegian parents.
The first thing she said about French parents is that they say no a lot more often. So I typed it into my messy list so that I can use it to answer the question.
He's reaching out for something dangerous, or if I say you can't touch this and he goes to touch it, I will just tell him no, you cannot touch that. Whereas my partner tends to say more of, oh, come look here. He tends to try to divert his attention. And I'm not kidding you guys, in a week I think this man says no to our child like maximum 3 times a week. I don't he is goals, I tell you that.
Then she talked about the Norwegian style. She said that Norwegian parents divert their attention or say, look over here, and they only say no like 3 times a week. So I put that in my messy list to use for my answer.
Parents have a bit of a stricter approach to parenting than Norwegian parents.
There's another piece of information. French parents are stricter.
Do not do that. In French parenting, more emphasis is placed on manners and on discipline, whereas here in Norway, it's no big deal here in Norway. In Norway, life tends to revolve more around the child than it does in France. French parents are very good at prioritizing adult time and making time for themselves, and here there's less emphasis on eating meals together as a family.
Okay, I watched the whole video and I created this messy list. It looks like in general, French parents are more strict and Norwegian parents are more free, according to Roberts, which is the name of the woman in the video, Sarita Roberts. The best way to start answering a question in a prompt is to give a general 1-sentence answer to the question. So when I look at this messy list and I get ready to answer the big general question, I think my parenting style is closer to the Norwegian style. In the same document, I'm going to start to answer the discussion prompt with a big general answer. So here's my big answer to the question. My style is closer to the Norwegian style. I've given a 1-sentence answer to the question, but I can't just do a discussion post with 1 sentence. I have to write 150 words and I have to use the video to support my answer. So now I'm going to use the messy list that I made while I was watching the video to support my answer. The first thing that Roberts said was that French parents say no more in order to avoid danger. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to respond to that first. Roberts says that French parents say no to their children to help them avoid dangerous situations. Notice I'm paraphrasing while I do this, and I'm also taking care to say that Roberts was the speaker. Okay, I'm going to remove that. I think this is a good idea, but I am more like the Norwegian parents. I prefer to distract children from dangerous situations. After watching this video, I wonder why I have that habit. Okay, so now I've included the information about saying no. Now I'll go to the next part. She says French parents are stricter. They will spank their children or grab their ear and have more emphasis on manners. The next thing she talked about is guests, how French kids must say hello, but in Norway, a child might hide and that's okay. So I'm going to paraphrase that. So I'm just going through my messy list and I'm finding things to respond to. I'm paraphrasing what Robert said in the video, and then I'm adding my own opinion. If I show my opinions in red and the information from Robert's videos in blue, you can see that I'm going back and forth between my opinion and what Roberts said in her video. I'm going back and forth because I'm using the things that she said in the video to support my opinion. Half of this comes right from my head, and half of it is a response to things she said in the video, which I've paraphrased and included here. What I wrote is a draft, so now I want to make sure that I used college sentences in what I wrote. I like to write a really messy draft the first time because it makes me really anxious to try to write everything perfectly as I'm writing the first time. I would rather write a big mess and then go back and fix it than try to get everything right the first time. I can see from the wavy blue lines here that I have some problems with my college sentences. For example, here I forgot a period, and the word French should have a capital F. I did it again with Norway, should be Norwegian. Oh, it's not marked, but here's another period I missed, and French should have a capital. And here it says, oh, I included the when I shouldn't. It said my, but I'm not talking about my parents, so I'm just going to remove it. Now I want to run spell check to make sure I don't have any spelling errors. I'll go to Tools, Spelling and Grammar check. And I continue to spell Norwegian wrong. And it looks like I made a mistake typing strangers too. Okay, now this is correct. Okay, let's try this again with another example. The second question for this week's prompt is, would you change your parenting style if you moved to another country? This is a straight opinion question, and I don't need to use the text to support it. I might choose to paraphrase parts of the text, but there's nothing about the text here. The previous question required me to know the difference between French parenting and Norwegian parenting, but this one is only asking for my opinion. Because I have a lot of anxiety about writing for school, I'm still going to start by making a messy list before I do anything else. Since this question is for the same post, I'm going to use the same document, and I'm going to just start making a messy list about my ideas for the second question. The second question asks, would you change how you parent if you move to another country? My first thought is, if I was in another country and I saw other parents doing something better than what I do, I might change it. But I probably wouldn't change my parenting style just to fit in the new country. And the reason for that is that my values for parenting are really important, and I wouldn't change them easily unless I could see a good reason to do it. One thing I'm thinking about is when I was living in another country and I could see that kids who didn't belong to the culture didn't fit in. I wouldn't want that to happen to my kids. I want to make sure that they were able to be part of the culture. So I think I would consider that too. When I look at my messy list, I see that my answer is yes and no. There are some ways I would change and some ways I wouldn't. I'm going to organize these ideas a little bit better. I'm going to start by talking about the ways that I wouldn't change, and then I'll follow up with the ways that I would change. Obviously, I can't hand in this list, which is very messy. So now I'm going to turn what I wrote into college sentences. In my messy list, I wrote not just to fit in, and I changed that to a full college sentence. I would not change my parenting style just to fit in if I moved to another country. The next thing in my messy list, my values are important. So I said that my values are very important to me, but I didn't really say what my values are. So I should probably include that a little bit in my post. It's not in my messy list, but I think it makes sense to add here. All right, the next thing in my messy list says if the other culture's way was better, I would use that. So let me change that into a college sentence. However, to show the transition. Okay, and then the last part is this point about kids needing to be a part of their culture. And then I get rid of the last of my messy list. So now I've turned the messy list into the second part of my answer. So I'm going to run spell check. And it looks like I did okay. I'm going to check for college sentences to make sure I have periods at the end of every sentence, capital letters at the beginning. Okay, everything looks good. And now that I've answered both parts of the question, I'll highlight everything, go to tools and word count. I wrote 206 words. That's above the 150 word requirement, so I'm okay there. And I'm ready to copy this and paste it into Brightspace. If you're like me and you get nervous writing things for school, especially things that other classmates will see, I recommend that you start with the messy list and messy sentences and then go back and edit them later. It's a lot easier to write freely and then solve the problem than it is to try to be perfect while you're writing. Good luck with your post.